This is Wild on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast. Did you guys see this? This is unbelievable. What is that all about, Kinger?
Get in here for the real thing. Like, let's get weird.
Maybe I blacked out trying to figure out what was going on.
Doubt, worry, fear, because that's what we're breaking the mold on here.
Welcome to Wild on 7th, presented by Pilot Games. We're here until it's here.
I think everybody knows what the on-ice Cookie Monster is. Yeah, it's the guy that goes up to the referee and says quietly, "Hey, I touched that puck. Yeah, it was me, number 14. Give me an extra assist." Well, the Cookie Monster in the studio is right here. You're looking at him. It's me, Ryan Carter. I love cookies, and I don't like dainty cookies. So if you don't like dainty cookies, T-Rex cookie is the thing for you. They're baked right here in Minnesota, and they bring you a local flavor that can't be beat. And whether you're at XL Energy Center looking for a nice, huge 7-inch treat or grabbing a frozen dough pack from Cub Foods, you're supporting homegrown goodness when you eat T-Rex cookies. All right, welcome back to Wild on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast. As always, presented by our friends at Pilot Games. We're coming off a Super Bowl Sunday, plenty of libations shared. Hopefully, if you were out watching at one of your local establishments, you grabbed one of their tablets and used their games. Always fun. You got a chance to win. And not only can you win, your community does when you play Pilot Games. So thank you for that. Kinger, big Super Bowl Sunday. We've got to check in with last week's guest because it was a big week for him. We're talking Radio Joe from Philadelphia via Edina right now.
Maybe the only guy who thought yesterday's Super Bowl wasn't the worst Super Bowl ever. Maybe.
It was great.
Oh, was it?
It was glorious.
Here he is, Radio Joe.
Let's go.
In the Dirty Birds. What do you have, the jersey on, the T-shirt on, like the full get-up?
The Four Nations face-off break could not have come at a better time.
It'd be tough to get up for work today.
You're going to have to get in the Chelio sauna, get on the bike maybe. Is that a Kelsey jersey? Is that Jason Kelsey?
This isn't even mine. I'm just borrowing it for the bit.
I like that he's an offensive lineman, though. I appreciate that. And a retired one, but that's still good. How did you – so you were standing. That we knew you were going to stand for most of the game. That game was in – I sat for a lot of it. Okay, break down your setup watching this domination of the Chiefs.
So my parents were out here, our three boys, my wife, Kara, and then we had a couple of friends in town come by. They've kind of adopted the Eagles a little bit because of our lunacy. So they were in good support, which was nice. And I actually I tried to remain calm. I sat for a lot of the game, which is surprising. Just trying to calm the nerves, and enjoy it. And at one point, if I'm gonna be honest, I thought it was like it wasn't really happening because in Philadelphia, Minnesota fans can relate to this. We generally don't get things like this. Like we don't get nice things. We don't blow out teams in championship games. So like mid to late third quarter, I was like, is this like reality? You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel real. It still doesn't feel real. But I'm going to enjoy the next 12 months, and you better believe I'm going to make it
12 months.
Painful.
The next 12
Until they
months.
hand out the next Lombardi, I'm going to be insufferable. And that's how we roll.
Well, so who are you going to target first? Because I heard yesterday in the...
Oh, I already started with your broadcast partner today.
Yes, because okay, tell us about this bet. Because you got a little overconfident maybe. And
I
said,
did.
I'll take anybody, all money on Eagles, plus 10?
I got on the bus after that game in Chicago when the Eagles won that NFC Championship game in a landslide, and I was ready to play the Super Bowl that moment myself. And I was like, I'll give 10 points. I'll give 27 points. Like, you name it. And, of course, Panther was right away like, I'll take 10 points, $100. And then I was like, damn it, Like, I don't want to pay him $100 and the Eagles don't win by 10 or more. And I'm a big, you got to shake on a guy because I do like the spout off, if you guys couldn't tell. So, in my book, it was never official. But then today, just to grind those gears, I sent him a text, and you'll like this cards. I said, I need a chart. Panther's big on his charts for a math problem. What's 40 minus 22? And, because obviously the Eagles covered. And I don't think he liked that very much.
Well, then just follow it up with a Venmo request. So
Oh, that's a good one too. And just get right on in there.
Just put an eagle and a football in there on that Venmo request.
So what was
So listen, I will do a lot of trolling the next couple of weeks, which is, just furthering the Philadelphia fan base narrative, and I'm here for it, quite frankly.
Well, congrats to you. I don't recall what it's like to be in a Super Bowl, being a Viking fan. But what was your food situation? When it's your team playing, is the game experience totally secondary, or did you have it dialed? Did you have a good spread, libations? What were you just like football?
It's a great question, John. Thanks for asking. I would say the food and stuff is secondary. The game is all that matters. However, I didn't want to, you can't have nothing, right? Like the kids have to eat at some point. So I did a little pulled pork in the crock pot, which whatever, it was easy, right? Like I didn't have to do anything. Like once it was done, it was done. I was off the hook before kickoff. We had some cheesesteak egg rolls that were in from Philly. They were in the freezer, and they were kind of overcooked them a bit, but they were great. The pretzels arrived.
Oh,
they were frozen properly to preserve them. Got them defrosted, heated up in the oven. They were good. And then just some chips and salsa, whatever. Again, it was the football game, man.
I love that if your team is in the Super Bowl, you basically just get like Lunchables and mac and cheese and like put it in the corner. That's a lesson to us Minnesota fans, right? Like when it's time for business, here's some fun fruits.
Yeah.
Daddy's going to be in the den.
You don't want to be cooking during the game. You don't want to be flipping burgers. You don't want to be serving people. Like then you're missing the game. Now, the good thing about the Super Bowl is those long commercials allow you to quick grab something out of the oven or hit the restroom, and you don't miss anything. Because I may or may not have had a few of these.
Oh, what is that?
Oh, boy.
The Eagles Bud Light. You saved that? Because what's that, 52? What number is that?
Yeah, it's 52. So that's from the last time they won. I saved one can. Thought I might crush it yesterday if they won again, but I decided not to. I think I'll keep it as a memento and add it to the new line of cans.
You think a 7 or 8 year old beer would still taste good?
I was wondering if it was going to make me want to like jump off a bridge afterwards. But I was willing to do it. But then I was like, let me just keep it with the soon to be Super Bowl 59 cans that I'll be consuming.
What do you think about popping it open right now and just drinking it on the pod with us?
I was wondering if you guys were going to ask me to do that.
You get a new one, and then that one rides with you till the next one.
What I'm thinking is you can't let Saquon be the only guy to shotgun a beer in Philadelphia.
Was he shotgunning beers?
Yeah, it's like his thing now. He did it after the NFC Championship game, and he was doing it last night too.
Love it.
Tarp off, which that's a wild thing.
Fitting. Yeah. Jake Middleton approved.
Yeah, exactly.
How were you after the pass interference call early first?
Dude.
Were you like fully, this is scripted? Like your kids are crying? Like, how did you deal with that?
I did not handle it well. It was 3 minutes into the game, and I was beside myself.
It's over.
Because that was the fourth down, right?
It was like one of, for the conspiracy theorists, that was a moment like, we're doing this again. But then it did not happen.
But do you think it went the other way? Like that actually was good for the Eagles because then, you know what I mean? So like, let's say you score real early in a hockey game. You think that's a great thing, but all of a sudden your team takes their foot off the gas and they lose that game 4-1 or something?
Yeah. I will say, I think like just they knew after that terrible, terrible call, I was just like, we're going to have to beat them and the refs. It might be that way. Like when you play the Chiefs, you can't let them hang around. If that game was within 3 points in the fourth quarter, there's more than a coin flip's chance the Chiefs are going to win. So you had to beat the brakes off of them. They did. Damn, man, just so much fun.
You place any prop bets? You win anything? You guys do Super Bowl squares or anything cool?
I did, but I'm a psycho, and I didn't want to know what numbers they were because I didn't care. Like, I didn't want my gambling.
You didn't want to root for the gambling,
right? Like, if the Chiefs kick a field goal here, I win $1,000. Like, I didn't want any of that. So I was just like, I'll buy the squares, and then if I get Venmo'd, I get Venmo'd.
Let's see how it all shakes out. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I'm a lunatic.
Should we share our Super Bowl journeys while we got Radio Joe here, or should we let him go drink
I would
his
love
beer?
to hear what you guys did.
Yeah, all right. Let's hear it.
Stillwater?
So, yeah, I was in Stillwater. It's gotten very competitive with the food. So we're Viking fans, so we focus on the experience, especially when Philadelphia is playing and the Chiefs. Like, no one, like, that was the worst Super Bowl ever for everyone else in America besides you and Bradley Cooper.
Right.
But so I've been doing a hot dog roller with a buddy, and I would say we were basically like Mahomes. We had been on a run. Like, nobody saw the hot dog roller coming. Where do you buy this? And just like Patrick, I don't know, I felt like it wore off. Like, we didn't have as much juice with the hot dog roller. One of the bun wrappers at one point got hooked in the roller while we weren't watching it, and hot dogs were getting shot on the floor. We blew a fuse. So I think the hot dog roller is done. The guy who won the day, Karts was asking me this, Canadian guy, was upset that his food was not mentioned last year in the recap. Guy brought down walleye from Canada, and he was outside in, like, whatever the temperature was, just frying them up, shore lunch, salt and pepper. And you know that when it comes in on the paper towel and it's hot and you're just grabbing the little wafer thin, I mean, in a landslide, it's not competitive. Like, I was like, this is unbelievable. You brought this from Lake of the Woods, Canada side. I think there's a law that was broken potentially there. I'm not sure, so I don't know.
4 fish, but there was plenty more than 4.
Sure.
I'm
not sure
They
they
have a possession limit.
I'm not sure you
Don't
can
reveal his identity.
I'm not sure you can transport that across the border, but yeah, he is. We got a little mini Lombardi trophy for best food because that's what Vikings fans focus on. And yeah, he ran away with it. It was a bold move. I mean, and he was outside like all night. Just, you could see his breath. He's out there cooking it, and then he would just come in with the paper plate with the paper towel. I mean, magnificent. Kudos to him. But that was the best hot dog roller, I think. Went the way of Mahomes and the Chiefs. Our dynasty is over.
Did you try to step it up at all? Like, bring like chili on the side? So
We
you could have
did.
a chili dog or like a Chicago style dog?
We had a triple mini crock pot. We had cheesesteak toppings with cheese whiz, which is what the Philly people do. And then we had barbecue and KC barbecue. And then we had a big sign. I went to actually CVS and made a sign with bedazzled letters that said the 3-meat three-peat. So you could have 3 different types of meat and a three-peat. So we kind of tied our fortunes to Mahomes and the Chiefs. We definitely walked in like we own the place, and everybody is leveling up, and we're like, never bet against Mahomes. The hot dog roller's back, and we're going to keep on rolling. And then all of a sudden, just walleye out of the corner just punched us in the face. And
So do you think you were on the podium?
I don't think so. I got to be honest. That whole like bun wrapper, like the fact that someone came into the other room and was like, it has to hurt your chances that there's hot dogs all over the floor over there. And then my wife just ran, just
Hold the meeting to hot dog
just
roller.
beelined out there. I did what any gentleman would do. I just kind of like looked away and figured she would fix it, but she was in there pulling the plastic out of the roller, resetting. Yeah, we're going to have to take a long look in the mirror, focus on the draft, and try to be better next year. You hosted. How was that? Is that your first time hosting a Super Bowl party?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you do, and what kind of experience did you give your guests?
I don't know. I think everybody had fun, but I didn't get a chance to watch the football game at all.
Yeah, I bet.
It's just running around.
It's like having a wedding or something.
Yeah, running around, but I was like in the sport court with the kids too, like just doing a little bit of everything out on the ice. They were skating too, but it was good. My favorite part of the Super Bowl actually is the commercials. I didn't get to watch many, so I don't know what was good. I did get to sit down and watch the halftime show, and yeah, I don't know that I loved the halftime show.
Mixed.
I didn't know
too
anybody.
long, man.
I didn't know anybody.
Yeah,
too long.
I felt it made me feel old.
Yeah,
No.
it was split down the middle at our party. Like the older people were like, "What the hell is this? Who is this?" And then the young people were just just every word, just pumping their fist, hitting the mic drop at the same moment as Kendrick. So I guess we are old. I think once you don't know who the host of Saturday Night Live is each week, you're old, and that's kind of where we're at probably.
My favorite.
I know the Prince one is like a
Amazing.
legendary halftime performance.
Miami, yep.
But I gotta say, a couple of years back when it was Dre, Snoop, Eminem, I think Mary J, and maybe Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
There was like one younger rapper that was like top level, right? I mean, you guys know the old 90s scene. Like
That was great.
They
They
were
were
my age-ish.
Everybody could relate to that one still. Yeah, that one was good.
they were in like the Barbie house, and they were moving from
Yeah.
room to room. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
great.
they had like the hoopties out, like the car out
Yep.
there, and it was sick.
Yeah. No, but we had a blast, man. The food was good.
Who was on the podium? Who's the runaway winner from the Carter Super Bowl party?
Oh, good question. We brought meat from the local butcher shop, which I think went over well. Hired in specialty mac and cheese, which was great. I think if you had the kids vote, that won.
That's a good move. Maybe next year.
But then somebody gave us the old bait and switch. I'll bring a veggie tray.
Okay.
And then they came over with like perfectly smoked ribs. So I think that was the one that ended up taking the cake. Like everybody kind of
Big switch.
Everybody kind of slow played what they were bringing. Then all of a sudden, like in the 11th hour, things started to level up a little bit. So we're thinking there might have been some strategy.
Well, this walleye thing has just got me shaking. Like, I don't know. Do you have to do lobster tail? Like, I don't know how to, like, I actually was talking to my buddy that we bring the hot dog roller with, and we're like, I think we have to bring Billy sushi next year. And he's like, bring sushi. I go, no, bring Billy and sushi. And he's like in the corner doing like a custom sushi for people. That's the only chance we can get over the top. If a guy's going to punch a hole in the ice and bring fish down and fry them and you eat them warm.
It's a slippery slope, though, because he didn't get to enjoy the night at all. He was just out there frying fish.
That's true. And he probably smelled like smoke when he went to bed and
Oil.
But he's a winner. He goes back to Canada with that miniature Lombardi trophy that does not have the NFL logo on it. I looked at it. It was like FFL. I'm like, oh, that's why it was $18.
And, you can rent, for lack of a better term, like hibachi chefs.
Yes.
Like traveling hibachi chefs. I've been at a party with one of those, and they are electric.
That's a guy catching an egg on the side of the blade.
And they bring this guy had sake in a super soaker,
Yes.
and he would just unleash sake to anybody that wanted it.
This is our way back. You got a card on him?
Yeah. Send us his contact.
It was on the East Coast, but
Saki Super
I'm sure he
Soaker
would travel.
.tv.
All right, Joe, congratulations on the Eagles'
I know you don't
victory.
mean that, but thank you.
I don't mean that.
Yeah, the birds are allowed to peacock today. Good luck, buddy.
Say hi to Bradley Cooper for us.
Thanks, guys. Godspeed.
Congrats.
Go Birds.
Radio Joe, gosh, what a beauty. The food, where'd you end up getting all your hot dogs from?
Cub. They're the official grocer of the Minnesota Wild, Ryan. I don't know if you know that as an analyst for the Minnesota Wild and a former player. But now I think we turned the corner. Truth is, today should have been a national holiday. Maybe it will be in a few years, the day after Super Bowl. But I think now it's time to get healthy. Let's head over to Cub. I'm trying to look at this. Let's get some beef jerky. Maybe get for $4.99 some Jack Links. Get on kind of a low carb program. What else do I have here that would be healthy? Maybe let's get some Bounty paper towels, a little cleanup. I had to clean the hot dog roller today. Used a lot of Bounty paper towels, $15.99 at Cub. Cub is one of us. They're local. People just love Cub. It's kind of like, it's nice to have a place when you're out of state that reminds you of being home, and that's what Cub is. They support sports all over, including the Wild on 7th Pod. So head into Cub, official grocer of the Minnesota Wild.
So we do the bees, so I've got the honey, and at dinner we had to have at least one dish with the honey in it.
Smart.
So we make these Hawaiian bun, ham, and honey sandwiches.
King's Hawaiian, yep.
Yeah, dynamite sandwiches. Like you got to make the ham, then you got to bake it.
So good.
It was good, really good.
So good.
But Cub was the place, got all of it, one-stop shop,
I think
dynamite.
King's Hawaiian makes everything better. When you constructed those sandwiches, did you know exactly how to put the pieces together?
Yeah, I did because I followed instruction, but I also know my shortcomings. But I felt comfortable having everybody in my house because there was like going to be no drafts. It was cold out. We had a great foundation roof over our heads, and you never want to be hosting people and insecure about probably their safety and comfort inside your home. No. So if you have any of those insecurities, you should contact our friends at Wild Construction. They do specialize in exterior work. That could be your siding, your windows, doors, your roof. Again, if you're one of those people that has a lake home, or even you live in the Cross Lake area, part of that storm that ripped through there, you have up to 12 months to have somebody come check it out and assess the damage and maybe get your roof repaired. Wildconstruction.com. They'll make it happen. Check them out. I love them. Roof was comfortable. Super Bowl party was top notch.
Congrats. I'm glad you hosted.
Hey, one more thing. Yeah, that was fun. One more thing on the Super Bowl, though, and this comes from hosting. There needs to be a holiday on Monday, or I get that Sunday is like football's day, switch it to Saturday, or they need to start it much earlier on Sunday.
Well,
give us like a 2 p.m. start on Sunday so that when it's done, it's like 6 p.m., 7 p.m., and then, you get home. Kids are hungover today.
If we've ever had a president that's going to make it a national holiday, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen in the next 4 years. I mean, that's just going to be, it's going to happen. And that would be, I think that would be great if we did it. I forgot to mention this. So the squares, you did the squares in the prop bet board.
Yeah.
So I roll in squares and they have a $10 board and a $20 board. And somebody says to me, you can pick 5. I'm like, great. So I do 2. I write my 10 names on the big board, and I think it's $40. No, $20 a square. So I had been to the ATM. I pull out everything I have. I'm almost like borrowing money from people because I've just bought
$200.
Yeah, $200 worth of squares on the big board. But in garbage time, Kansas City, I'm not even paying attention. I'm unplugging the hot dog roller and bringing the triple crock pot, trying to stage stuff for our exit. Kansas City gets to 22. We win the small board, and I had bought a square for one of the kids of a guy I work with. He wins the big board, both of them. 2 Soprano envelopes left with 700 in one and like 400 in the other. So we hit both of them at the end with all that madness at the end of the game. Did you win squares?
I did. I won the first quarter, which was the smallest one.
The 7-0?
Yeah. The squares thing is funny, too, because you want to win, but you don't want to win them all.
Because then you get a bad look. And 7-0 was hanging around
almost
every single quarter. And you're the host? That's even worse.
Right. Yeah, I know. Exactly. And I was actually thankful that I didn't win the halftime at 7-0. It was close. Didn't happen. But then another family, I think, ended up, and just randomly, it wasn't the same square, won the next 3. So it was almost like
they just had, they were
in the right spot all the time, like a clean sweep. When they were like, no, we don't want to win. It's like, well, it's the way it goes.
No, it's good. So we'll turn the corner to hockey. The Wild, it was a little bit like Dorothy. There's no place like home for a couple games. It was nice to see the ruby red skates come out for a victory. By the way, we have to be Rod Brindamore's just when he sees the Wild logo, he must just be filled with rage. And then the Islander win
because they Rod Brindamore when they play him.
They play exactly how Rod wants the Canes to play, and they just beat them. I mean, it's awesome. But whatever it is about that matchup, it's been great for a couple years now. And then the Islanders game, whoever got that plane here at 4 a.m, maybe it was the 6 inches of snow or whatever, but great way to finish before the break. Send the boys off to wherever they're headed.
Those games were important.
Very important. If
like
you
mentally.
drop both those games and everybody's, biting their nails in Cabo or wherever, I mean, that's no good, right? So those were huge wins, and we're doing it by committee. You know, you did see Boldy, with 3 points against the Islanders, but man, everybody's chipping in. You know, Trennan. I got to talk about this. Vinny Hinostroza. That's how I say it. Is that right? Mm-hmm. This guy. I mean, it's like if you asked AI to draw you a picture of Matt Zuccarello and Ryan Hartman had a baby or something. Like, I'm like, what is this? It's like a created player to give us a little jolt of energy. I mean, he's very visible. I know he was on waivers or whatever, but like, I don't know what a Vinny Hinostroza is, but I really like it. He's like a water bug. He's the guy on a youth hockey team that all the parents would just love because his legs are moving faster than everybody. And he just looks like he's from if this was the Marvel universe, he's like from the Wild universe. He looks like a cousin. Maybe he's buddies with Hartman, I heard. But thank you, Vinny, for coming right when we needed it and putting that shot of adrenaline in our chest. I mean, pretty great that a little jolt from an unlikely place, right?
And he does remind me of Hartman too. Like he wears 18s, and like there are a couple of times where it's like it's Hinostroza. Like you think
it's almost like he's
same size.
It's like you're playing a video game and they didn't have the actual player in there, and you got like some amalgamation of Hartman and Zuki just mashed up. Yeah, he fits in nice, and just what we need. Isn't that how a long season goes, though? Right? You need those guys to just step up. I think Trennan has been awesome. This guy. I did do the preseason. I'm like, this guy's going to be a folk hero by the end of the year. I want to see Trennan in the playoffs. I think he's just going to be splattering bugs on the windshield. You said it on the broadcast in the Islander game. He looks faster. He's hitting everything that moves. He's trying to go short side shelf with his shot. He's getting stronger and stronger. It's the Russian machine. Kirill does this too. These Russians, man, they're like an ox. As the season goes on, their battle level, either they stay the same and everyone else goes down, or they get better. But he's been really fun to watch too.
I think you go to that Islander game and you're like, oh my goodness, Eck is out. Like,
I know.
Here we go again. But being down 2 goals, coming back, scoring 5 unanswered.
Outstanding.
It's amazing how many times they've been able to do that. And shorthanded, like without Eck, without Kaprizov, you're hurting. You've got guys with, and give them credit, they didn't have, I think Hines kind of touched on it a little bit. They maybe had a toe in the sand a little bit to start that game after they scored that first shift or second shift, whatever it was. They maybe didn't play with the urgency they needed to, but down the stretch in that Islander game, man, they turned it on. And I think some of it was because of guys like Trennan and Hinostroza, like those depth guys just were like, all right, let's go. And they created a spark.
How haunted that game. So D'Angelo almost has a hat trick of own goals. And the second one, he just full on, he might as well have gotten on one knee like Crosby and shot it into the net. And Patrick Waugh is your coach. I haven't been paying attention. I was expecting them to be on waivers the next day. Like if your coach is Patrick Waugh and you score 2 on your own goalie, like I think you're just done. Like he doesn't speak to you ever again, does he? I mean, has anyone ever had a hat trick of own goals in an NHL game?
I don't know.
Do you throw hats? I mean, and then they're hitting the pipe. Foligno is throwing an empty netter in from Duluth. I mean, it was
on the backhand, fluttering.
It was nice for once as a Wild fan to be like, hey, everything's going our way. I mean, I was just watching this game. I'm like,
it's like Joe O'Donnell with the Super Bowl. Like, the Eagle, finally, yes.
Come in here and watch this, honey. It's all going to be okay. So the sun is shining.
It did feel like that, didn't it? Like,
it was great. And you were great on the broadcast with the, you got to win the blue paint on both sides, and you called it. It was like a fight. And the boxer in the third period was just looking at his cut man like, hey, we got in really late, man. I'm done. And then it was just like we took over. what a nice way to finish out the stretch before Four Nations. Yeah, that was a big win, both of them.
Yeah, the big guest of the day is Billy Guerin. John, you were unfortunately out of town, so I was able to sit down with him a little bit. But we talked about how, and I asked him at one point, like, what's an acceptable amount of time for a player to become acclimated when he comes to a new team? Because you have Hinestroza, who game one, noticeable.
Yeah.
And then you had Trenyon, who took time, and he's like, everybody's different. I don't know that he answered it directly, and I don't know that there is an answer. And I think maybe I didn't phrase it appropriately because I was more curious, like, from management, like, what's acceptable? At some point, you're like, okay, this isn't working.
I think Vinny Hinestroza was acclimated faster than you can say his last name. I mean, there's already people wearing Hinestroza jerseys in the XL. I don't know how he did it, but yeah, it was not normal. Every player's different, I suppose, but yeah, I'm excited to listen to what Billy has to say too.
Vinny's one of those names too, where like if you just like everybody named Vinny,
Makes it so much better.
right?
Like V-neck.
Like you just have to be. Like if I had a son, I'd probably name him Vinny, just because you're like everybody's gonna love this guy.
It's a great name. You'd be hard pressed to find a Vinny that you wouldn't want to sit with and, out front of a, butcher shop or something. He's been a welcome surprise. Freddie Gaudreau, let's throw a bouquet to him too. Freddie's got a different look too. Like his hair is really long.
Like a mustache.
It seems like he's not.
He reminds me like Mario and Luigi right now.
I know. It's like he's not shaving. He just looks like he's like, I don't know, like he was captured and forced to play hockey or something. And he's having this was a guy people were really hard on, and now he's really chipping in and he's helped us through what could be the desert, when you got 97 on the shelf and then just getting points from all over. The back end continues to deliver, whether it's Middleton or Faber or Spurgeon or Brodeen, they're all chipping in. They got to be real happy putting the salted rim on their drinks wherever they are, finishing that way.
Oh, by the way, with that Faber on the score sheet in that Islander game, I think all Minnesotans registered a point.
Every single one.
That was cool.
Yeah, and he was the last one to do it, and then early on, I'm like, this is a very wild narrative, right? We're going to have Anders Lee, who has an excellent scar, by the way, on his chin. That's a very good one. And then Brock Nelson. I'm like, oh, no. And then we got the defenseman they traded for. But then, Brock chipped in an assist as the game turned, and pretty cool seeing all those guys register points.
All right, let's get to the Four Nations. But before we do that, were there any dips present at the Super Bowl party?
Well, getting ready for the big game, because we're not an official sponsor of the big game. What I was doing was sharing a lot of dip picks with people to understand what to bring, get ideas, get inspiration. I would send my wife a dip pick. Is this something that we should do with a celery tray and all of the different ones, dill and ranch? And she would send me a dip pick back where maybe she was setting things up different. It's healthy. It's enjoyable. I know that after Super Bowl, now's a nice window to get healthy. And so I would pick up some Jimmy's. The dill dip is the most popular in Minnesota. Get a veggie tray, turn your life around. Maybe we don't need the wings and the queso and all that for Four Nations. Let's go over and get some Jimmy's, a family run Minnesota company. Don't you be messing with my dressing. How was the air conditioning and water in your home when you hosted the Super Bowl party? Was there any
It was good.
rust orange water for the kids, or everything was in the top-notch system?
It was good. The doors were left open because the kids were out skating, but cool draft didn't kill us. It's nice with the guests to regulate the air, but also we have the air exchanger inside, which regulates the air. And right now, if you don't want to be left in the cold, as I do see, I think there's like a big blast of cold air coming from the north. Like we're going
dark.
Yeah. So if you don't want to be left in the cold, Aquarius Home Services, they've got your back. If you want to be comfortable, check them out. Right now, you can save up to 25% on their home solution sale and get a new high-efficiency heating and cooling system. Again, that's both seasons right now. You might want to fire up that furnace. You can get a free estimate, so call today, AquariusHomeservices.com, earning the right to be recommended. I love these guys. Comfortable, everything about them. Couldn't recommend them more.
Well done. So Four Nations, so I am extremely excited about Best on Best coming back to hockey. I do think there's some confusion out there about the tournament. Where is it? When is it? Okay, so this is your
synopsis.
This is your Four Nations 101. Okay, if you're listening to this today. This is a round robin tournament. There's 4 teams. You play all 3 teams. If you're in the top 2, you get into the championship. The 2 cities this is in are Montreal and Boston. It starts in Montreal, and then it goes to Boston. So here's your schedule, folks. It starts this Wednesday, the 12th. Only Canada and Sweden playing Wednesday night. Thursday, you got the U.S. first game against Finland. Then there's this epic Saturday in Montreal, and they've lined this thing up. Afternoon game, you got the Finns against Sweden. They hate each other, huge rivals. And then in prime time this Saturday night, U.S.-Canada in Montreal. That's another amazing rivalry. Then they're going to go to Boston. And on Monday, you also got a doubleheader. Canada will be playing the Finns in the early game, and the U.S. will be playing Sweden primetime Monday night. That's all 5 of your Wild players will be in the U.S.-Sweden game Monday night, basically a week from today. The top 2 teams will play the championship game on Thursday in Boston on U.S. soil. So it's a quick tournament.
It is quick. So it's like a week total.
Yeah, so it goes Wednesday to Thursday. So it's 8 days total. Now, my understanding is if you don't make the top 2, you just split. They're not playing for third is my understanding. So, which makes sense.
So it could be like a 6-day tourney for those.
Correct. You could be done by, I guess, that Monday. But no, it's going to be, I know you got into some of this with Billy, but I think it's going to be ornery. My opinion. It won't be the World Cup of '96, but imagine you're one of these guys. Everybody else gets basically 2 weeks, and you're grinding. You're in the hardest part of the season. You're trying to prove yourself to your teammates. You know, Sam Bennett takes a run at somebody, and you're diving in to support them. I think this is going to be spicy. I'll be interested to see if there's any fighting majors in this tournament.
What would you set the over-under at?
If there's even one fight, this is a very short tournament, then you know we're in uncharted territory. We're miles away from the World Cup.
So you'd set it at like
I think it would be I think Vegas would set it at 0.5, but if there was a 1.5 major, I would take the over. Just because I think you get like a plus 280 on that or something. That is not going to be something you can gamble on, I'm sure. But I like when there's a little bit of hate in hockey. I think it's hard to manufacture that today because all these guys know each other. But I think this gets very complicated. You know, you might see, Brock Faber face-washing Eriksson Ek. I mean, this is going to be weird.
That's going to be the weirdest part.
We haven't seen this in a long time. You're going to see JT Miller playing against Pettersson. You know, the 2 guys that couldn't get along and they had to trade them. I mean, that is some complicated stuff. So I think it's going to play out in prime time, and whether you're in blue and yellow.
It has the potential to be must-watch TV.
Yeah, I'm dialed in. I'm gonna go out and check on our boys next Monday. I'll be a Daily Show correspondent out in Boston for Wild on 7. So I'm gonna go to the U.S. Sweden game and see all the Wild guys. So I'll be dialing into the pod and give you a lay of the land out in Boston. But I hope they've won one of their first 2 games, or I could be in no man's land by that point. But I think this is must-watch hockey if you want to see the highest level of hockey. It's been a long time, 2016.
Let's do the Bosch Law injury report for nations. We'll start with the Wild. So you've got Kaprizov out right now still. He's on the mend. I think the hope is that he'd probably be close to returning a week or 2 after the Four Nations tournament ends. Lauko hurt. Again, I don't think we have a timeline on that. That's unfortunate again. He's noticeable when he's on the ice. Eriksson Ek misses the last game, but he traveled with the Swedish guys.
I was going to ask that.
To the Four Nations. So that one looks like it's not terribly serious. He was just out for that game. That's good. But now to the Four Nations, Quinn Hughes of Vancouver and Team USA, now ruled out of the Four Nations. Jake Sanderson in. I don't know what the ailment on Quinn Hughes was. I think there was optimism that he's going to be able to play, but in the 11th hour, he's not. We talked to Billy about that too, and he's just like, I leave that up to the player. I'm not going to pressure anybody.
There's been really good roster integrity. There haven't been a lot of people popping out like you see at the All-Star game. Typically All-Star game, one guy, I got a sore wrist, then 10 guys have a sore wrist. I think people know what they're playing for, and it's been nice to see. I mean, really, it's been less than 5 guys have flipped, right? Maybe 2.
Well, and
three?
Sid Crosby is questionable, I think, but I think he's playing. Mark Scheifele is the guy that I saw is on call. And then more pertaining to the Wild, you've got Philip Gustafsson, who might now be the starter for Team Sweden because Markstrom is out with an injury. He's the goaltender for the New Jersey Devils, so things opening up for them there. And is there another injury that I'm missing? I think Eriksson Ek's going to be all right. Miro Heiskanen, the D-man, that's a big loss, so he won't be there for Finland.
Yeah, and the Canadian defenseman was the first to drop.
Pietrangelo.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's like a half a dozen guys, 5 guys. So you're going to see full throttle hockey. And the towns they're playing in really does play into this. Montreal and Boston. I mean, Montreal is going to be an interesting place for the Americans on Saturday night, and Boston's going to be an interesting place for the Swedes and potentially the championship game. So, I mean, and those are very close places, right? So there'll be people going back and forth from Montreal to Boston. Should be a good time. I would set your DVRs and get out there.
Before we throw it to Billy, anything else? Like this seems like a time where we should reflect on like what's occurred for the Wild thus far. It seemed like it's a great start, rocky, like dog days, but they're grinding their way through it and staying where they want to, which is top 3 in the Central. Hasn't been pretty the last 6-8 weeks since the injury bug started to rear its ugly head. But they've found ways to still win games and be relevant.
I mean, a season that started with choose your hard, right? Losing's hard, winning is hard. I mean, this team's been like the little engine that could. You remember that children's book? I mean, they keep grinding. They seem to have the fortitude that Heinz, that's what it was all about in camp, right? I want to teach you that you can push through the wall when you get to the wall. And we've had a lot of walls put in front of us, a lot of injuries, and the group seems to have the mental toughness required to keep grinding. And I don't know, I have a lot of affinity to this group. I've liked the season they've put together thus far. I really hope 97 is wrapped in swaddling clothes for about the last 12 games, and we get this Russian bump you've talked about. Some of these teams that they have a superstar, a Russian superstar keeps the powder dry, and when maybe some of the superstars are worn down from this tournament, we get that little bump. And I want playoff hockey, and I want playoff success. And I think the mental side of this team would appear to be there. If we can get the health and the physical side there, I like it. I'd be very hopeful, depending on who we match up against.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the Four Nations right now too, and it's 3 D are out that I'm aware of. Like the D are so valuable. You look at the Wild, they're in a good spot approaching the deadline now too, because they have 8 NHL D men. And that's kind of I think it's tough before the deadline, managing that and getting everybody in the game, but it's great having depth at that position. We talked to Billy a little bit about his deadline plans. He seems like he has wants. It's just a matter of if he's going to be able to get it and if it's going to fit into the salary cap. They said they don't know the numbers yet. But lots of good stuff in this Billy interview, from the Hartman stuff, Four Nations, to deadline, to the salary cap going up a little bit. All good stuff, so stick around and listen. Anything else before we throw it to Billy here, Kinger?
No, I guess if I were given a bouquet, I also 22. Murat has really kind of been breaking through as well, and I got Moose's game. After last year, battling through that injury, to see him, whatever he is, plus 11, 21 points, fighting to the end of games. Mm-hmm. He's always the guy, diving for the puck, empty netter, or he is. They say, Billy always says there's guys that will drag others into the fight. And I think our helmet thrower, Marcus Foligno, would be one of them. So if you're listening in Hawaii, Mexico, wherever you boys are, thank you for what you've given us so far. And forgive us if we ask for a little more as we go forward. Here's Billy Guerin.
All right, we've got a big guest here on the show today. Again, if your hair is a weapon, much like our guest here, General Manager, President of Hockey Operations, General Manager of the Four Nations team, a lot of other titles. He's currently also the co-host of this podcast today because, we're missing John King.
Suspended.
Yeah, he's suspended. Right, he's sitting there on the shelf. I like that. Suspended. He's not going to like that. No, but hey, Duke Cannon, they sponsor the segment. Again, if your hair is a weapon, check them out. You can get at the hardware store, at Target, a lot of different places. So, Billy, thank you for joining us today, my man. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, always appreciate it. Hey, let's start with the team. There's a lot. I think there's a lot to talk about.
Let's start with I know
the suspension.
No. I know that this is going to get more viewings than the Craig Leopold podcast, without a doubt.
Is there?
I know
is there a wager on this?
No, but he always thinks his is going to be the most watched.
Well, so the funny thing about data is you can use it to paint any picture you want, and we can be bought on the set here.
Let's get
right
the brushes out.
Right now, Craig might have the upper hand. He'll have more viewers, but we might be able to tweak those stats to say.
We'll see. let's play it out.
I like that though. Nice little wager, perhaps. So let's start with the team. I think at the start of the year, you guys had this mantra where it was choose your hard. Mm-hmm. And I think the guys kind of rallied around that early on in the season. Is that mantra still in the locker room? Is that a message still being sent, or what's the identity? What's the message now?
Yeah, I think it is. Look, I'm not in there before the game and after the game, but I think it's something that is very true. You can make your choice, and actually, my wife gave me that, and it just hit home with me. And I just think every day you get up, you can make a choice. Every time you put your skates on or play a game, you can make a choice. Do you want to do what you want to do, or do you want to do what's right? Because sometimes it's just hard. But you can choose your heart. Like, you know what? The way it goes, and you can look it up online and say, choose your heart, and it'll list all these things. And it's, being in shape is hard. Being obese is hard. Choose your heart. What do you want to be? So for the games, you know what? Winning is hard. Losing is hard. Choose your heart. So if you want to choose your heart and do the winning type things, then do it. And if you don't, then choose the other one. But it is a choice. And I think the guys have really grabbed onto that. And I really believe in it, and I know they do too. Like I just said it to because I believed in it, and they grabbed it. Like they are doing it. Like they are.
Well, I think more now than ever.
They have made that choice.
More now than ever. Like I think you look at it, you lose a guy like Kirill from your lineup, and I think you lose. And this isn't an indictment on any of the other players, but you lose an ability to win games a certain kind of way. Like you lose some skill, you lose some things. You're not going to have like the comfortable 4-1 win where your power play has been dominant or your top line runs away with it. And that can happen, but it's not going to happen as consistently when you lose a guy like Kirill.
Right.
So it's almost like they've chosen their hard now, and it's a defensive style of play. But there's been a big commitment to a certain style of play. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. To me, see, it's funny that you see something, I see something different, but I think they're making these choices all over the ice. They're making these choices on both ends of the rink too. Where I see it is in their puck decisions, where even if we're up by 3 goals or 4 goals or whatever, they're making the same puck decisions as if we're up by 1 goal, or if we need to, it's the start of the game. Like the turnovers have. They've been much more responsible with the turnovers. They've been better at both blue lines. They're making their fight. You have to fight against your natural instincts sometime to want to make a play, and then just put the puck in the other team's end, because that's what we need. That's a hard decision, and that's kind of where I see it. I'm really proud of the guys and the way that they've played so far this year, and just making those hard decisions. You can see it. I can see it in every single one of them.
And Heinz has recently said things like they're a better team when they play better defensively. So puck possession, like all of a sudden, if they're playing good defensive hockey, they're playing with the puck much more, and then they score much more. You find that to be true as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know what, if we're solid against the rush, if we're solid in our zone, our sticks are good, positionally we're good, we limit the other team's opportunities to score, we create turnovers, then we have the puck and we can go the other way, and then we become a better offensive team. And then it goes back to what I said to puck decisions. It's not careless with the puck. It's good, responsible plays. And we have guys that are capable of creating offensive, making plays, and we want them to do that. It's not just, chip it in because it's safe. It's do what we have to do at the time. But, I think it all stems being solid defensively. It just gives us a puck more.
So where do you think the team and the group is at? Like, off to a great start, terrific hockey, good goaltending, good defense. The offense was there. Like, everything seemed to be firing on all cylinders. Then the injury bug starts to bite you guys a little bit, and you're still finding ways to win. But like, what's the state of the union right now with the group?
You know what? I think I'm very confident in the group. I think they're confident too. Like, we've been through a lot again, with injuries and kind of, having this great first 35 games or whatever it was, and then kind of a little bit up and down since then. But there's been a lot going on. But I think these guys are really changed. So I think they're really preparing themselves for after this break, kind of like the final push. The confidence is high. I don't think, I know they don't get rattled very easily. Even when, we're coming off, a couple losses or something like that, their demeanor isn't changed. There's no panic. They understand that the right way to play, and they're going to get back to it.
I think to your point, if you look at the Ottawa game, that didn't derail them. They got right back to it. In Boston, they don't win that game, but it doesn't, it's not like there was panic.
No, they're very confident, and I love seeing that. They've got their swagger back, which is really good. I think the game that really stood out to me, I wasn't even there, but we got killed in Nashville. And then we're going into Colorado. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the best games we played all year. And I think that's kind of it. They have the ability to kind of reset the dial, just totally reset and get back to what's made us successful.
And they can do it quick. Like, not a lot of teams can be like, hey, we're gonna tighten it up and we're gonna get back to it.
Right. And that's a great sign to me. Like, it's
and is that the silver lining to these injuries? Is like, you have all these guys learning on the fly how to tighten it up quick.
Tighten it up quick, and how we have to play to win. What it takes. Like Heinze's got this thing, and this goes back to our Wilkes-Barre days, and he always had this shop and compare, right? Shop and compare. This is how we played against, Ottawa, and it doesn't work. This is how we play against, Carolina. This works. Shop and compare. What did we do against Ottawa? And then what did we do against Carolina? And you can see it. It is black and white on the way we play. And those are the things that, and then the guy, you know how it is. It's tough. 82 games, you're not going to be perfect all the time. And sometimes you do need a little reset. And, that was that's one of the ways in which this team's grown so much.
I think if you look at it now too, like look at the Colorado game, or not Colorado, I'm sorry, the Carolina game, where the top guys don't get on the score sheet, but all of a sudden now you start to see the third and fourth line chip in and how important those goals are. Yeah. And you're at a time in the schedule where I call it like the dog days. It's game 40 to 60 where it's hard for your big guys to be great every single night, and it's almost a time where you need those other guys to all of a sudden step up and do something, chip in, elevate a little bit. All of a sudden, they're doing that. How important is that for the group, for the individuals? And then when I think about that, I think of like a playoff run, because you need the same in the playoff run, like where those guys step up and do that. How critical is that?
I think it's huge. I mean, like you said, the dog days are extremely tough, and if you kind of let it get away from you, you can put yourself in a really bad spot.
Right.
All the hard work that you've put into, a great first half or whatever, that can go away really.
We talk about that. It takes 1 week. You have one bad week, and all of a sudden, like you erased 3 weeks of good work.
It's unbelievable. This league is unforgiving. So yeah, like if we're in the dog days, which we are, depth scoring, guys chipping in, like you see last night, Trenny gets one, and Vinny Hinestroza gets one in his first game with us, like, which proves to be the game winner. Like, we need that, and you know what? And even when we're 100% healthy, you need that. You need your look at everybody on the team is important. Everybody on the team needs to chip in at some point in time. You just need it in order to win.
I think you look at those guys and this is a fair question. What's an acceptable amount of time for somebody to get acclimated to a club? So Trenning didn't have probably the start that he wanted, but then you get Hinestroza off waivers, and he has a great first game, and everybody's different. How does that process work for management, coaches, a team, just to get acclimated to a new spot?
I think it's different for everybody, but I know. You take Trenny, for example, and I know he had a tough time adjusting. So, and I've said this before, the beauty about hockey players is that they want to earn their money. They want to earn the contract that they've just been given. But you look at Trenny, he spent all this time in Nashville, then he quickly goes to Colorado, then he quickly comes to Minnesota. So he had one place where he was for a long time. Then boom, boom, 2 quick moves, 2 new teams, trying to figure all that out, trying to get your life settled, plus the pressures of a big contract. Sometimes that affects a player. I don't
think sometimes. I think it
we're
affects
human beings. But if you look back, it does affect people a lot. And it takes them a little while to get comfortable because they want to earn their contract. They want to be a good teammate. They want to make sure that they're earning their money. And the easy thing to do, like for us to say, is like, oh, don't even worry about it. Don't worry. Just play your game. Play your game. That's not that easy to do.
How does the waiver wire process work? Because you've been able to use that, I think, to the club's advantage in multiple times over the last couple of years. Hinestroza, the latest example of that. But how does that process work?
For the decision making, for me,
like how does it, like Hinestroza hits the waiver wire at noon one day, and then you have 24 hours to make a decision.
Yeah, so every day at I think it's 1:00, we get an email from the league, and it's who's going on waivers, or who is cleared from the day before, or who's been awarded. So we know all these players are on waivers. Do we need a player? What position? Do any of these guys fit? And so to be quite honest with you, this is why it's so important to have good people around you. I was at a doctor's appointment yesterday with my wife, and I just stepped out to check in because I had a missed call from Matt Sells, and Matt called me. He had talked to Mike Murray, Chris Kelleher, pro scouts, and they said we'd like to grab Vinny Hasroza. Here's why. And I just said, yeah, it's the same deal that went on with Chisholm. I said, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. But the guys that are that are surrounding me and helping me, and they're the ones that are they identified this guy, and then I just give them the green light. So it's really a group effort. I'm lucky to have the people that I work with. They're just smart and they know their stuff, and I think it's that's the process, really.
Going forward, it sounds like the salary cap is going up over the next couple of years, at least their projections. And, everybody hears that. That's not just like a general manager. How does that affect you and the plans that you and your group has going forward?
You know what? It's funny. Like we heard that, and it's a big jump. I mean,
and that's where it could be nerve-wracking because those are projections.
Those are projections.
It's not real. So let's say you start planning for that and you sign deals, and then all of a sudden you could be in a pickle. So I would imagine that
look,
it's hard for
the way I approach it, I'm gonna operate business as usual. Like this isn't just like more money for everybody, or just everybody gets a raise and we're gonna start paying crappy players more money. And no, I'm not. Like, you know what? This is a business. We got to be responsible. We're gonna pay the right players. I think if you just go out and just start, it doesn't matter what the cap is. If you start spending irresponsibly and on the wrong people, it doesn't matter what the cap is. You're spending irresponsibly and on the wrong people. That's not going to help your team. You have to operate the same way. Get the right people, do your due diligence, make sure that they're the people that fit with your organization, fill the holes that you need, not just the bright, shiny names that are out there. And of course it's going to affect salaries. I'm not stupid, but it's just it's not going to be a free for all either.
And does it change like your your short-term view at all too? Because you're approaching the trade deadline. What are we, a handful of weeks away from that?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now it's like, well, maybe there might be room for somebody different. Like, does it change your plans instantly?
Not the salary cap's the same this year.
Right.
So it doesn't, it changes things in that we could possibly take on somebody with term, if that made sense.
Yeah, totally.
But it's got to be the right thing.
Or you take, or for example, you take on a rental and be able to offer a guy an eighth year where somebody else can't.
Right, exactly. Those are the things that, but it also, it depends on the cap space that we have this year. We don't know. Like we have to get closer to the deadline to really, can we get, an A, B, or C player? We don't know.
And as you approach the deadline, do you have a plan for it right now? Like, do you have needs that you've addressed, or is it more you've kind of got to still wait and see yet before that day comes?
No, we have needs, and we know what we want, and I don't want to say a hole, but where we feel we can improve. But again, that all. That all we have to wait to see what kind of cap space we have, because, if we don't have enough, we might not be able to, get the guys on our wish list. We might have to get a certain type of person that, brings a different element, but still helps make us better. So it's still a little bit of a waiting game right now, but, hopefully it's enough where we can be active.
I want to talk about the Hartman suspension a little bit, because I think that there's there's part of him that's part of his game, and that's part of what makes him good, agitating a little bit. Is that a fine line to walk where you have to be who you are? Like, and you hear management, I can recall these messages many years where they say, like, dance with the girl that you went to the dance with, like, be the player that you are. You're here for a reason. It's because of what you are and how you've done it. Is it hard at some point to be like, hey, maybe you can't be like that, or you have to be smarter in how you do it to a player?
Yeah, of course. I mean, look at it. It's been 5 times now for Hartsey, and they're all tough lessons. You look at what Washington went through with Tom Wilson, or Boston went through with Marchand, and like all these things. Like they're not bad guys. They play hard. They play on the edge. Like if they try to play. If Hartsey tries to play a completely skilled game, he's just not as effective. And if he doesn't play with some emotion, he's not as effective. He's not as good, and that'll cost him.
That's the crusher, rusher, usher.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a fine line, but you know what? He's crossed it. He's crossed it too many times, and. I know he's worked at it. Him and I have had so many conversations about this, and I know he's worked at it. But still, that doesn't change. Hey, even if it's an accident and you do it, you did it. And I always try to put the other, myself in the place of the other general manager if that was my player that happened to, and I'd be furious. Like
that's probably a good way to look at it.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'll defend my players all day long. Look, I'm an honest guy. I know exactly what happened. It's right there. But yeah, if I put myself in the other guy's shoes, I get it. And you know what too? Like when it happened to Spurge this year, I was out of my mind, mad, out of my mind. And I said, I see what everybody else sees,
Yeah, I'm with you. I totally agree with that. Again, just getting it back to the point I was trying to make, where I think it's hard when you're asking somebody to be something that they're not. But is it any different than asking like a skill player or to make good puck decisions at the blue line? Like, listen, no, I know you want to do this. I know it's part of your game, but we need you to be. Is it similar?
And there's a different way to do it. We can't ask a guy like Hartsey to be a skilled like
Kirill.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, exactly. We can't do that. But there are better ways to handle situations than what you've been doing, and it's tough. Like I said, him and I have had some really tough conversations, and it's probably brought us closer. As a GM and player, and. I know he's worked at it, but he's got to get better.
Let's pivot, because on the flip side of this coin, you've got a guy, I think, in Marc-Andre Fleury that everybody loves, wants to see do well. And the team in Montreal goes and plays maybe one of the most complete games there was.
Yeah.
And do you think some of that is, because you've had a chance to play with great players in big moments too, like you want to be able to tell your side of the story of Marc-Andre Fleury's like last night and this one. Like, I don't think there was any way that they weren't winning that game and for Marc-Andre Fleury, but you see something similar?
Oh my God, it was unbelievable. Like I couldn't, you know what? We were so good against Toronto the night before. Mm-hmm. We were so good. I think, to me, like, I just thought we played great. And then we came out the next night and I was like, what's going to happen here tonight? Like, are they going to be
too emotional?
Yeah, exactly. Too emotional, a little distracted, like kind of just, and they were just so dialed in. And then Flower was dialed in. He had that one save on Anderson. It was like, I'm kind of like, there's no way. Like, this is, and then the clock starts ticking down and he's going to get a shutout. And we're like, Of course.
Yeah,
You know? But why
these
not?
things happen
Like,
to these
I'm-
kinds of people, and I was
Exactly,
saying
they
that about
should.
him. Like he's just as much a competitor as he is like a good guy, and
Yeah.
that's why it happens. It doesn't just happen; it happens because of those things.
100%. And then the standing ovation in Montreal for a player that's never played for them. I mean, that's just incredible. Like that
And
doesn't
in fact, has
happen.
beat him before.
Like,
Like,
yeah.
sent them
And there was one during the game. There was one after the game. There was one, and then the Montreal players staying on to shake his hand, and Marty St. Louis and Stefan Robida coming out to shake his hand. The coaches, like, it was a magical night for him and his family and the team. And I think that just says to how much they love the guy. I mean, everybody was blocking shots. Everybody was like,
it was so complete.
it was just awesome. Like it was really, that was an incredible night.
And you know what else is amazing about him? I say this too about great players is, and we touched on it almost with good teams too, that you have the ability to adjust on the fly and like hunker down and tighten it up and be good. He has that. I think he's had that over the course of his career, but he hasn't needed it this year. He's been great like all year. At 40 years old, I have a hard time tying my shoes, and this guy's out here looking like Gumby playing goaltender.
It's unbelievable.
Isn't it? I mean, I almost can't put words to it.
Yeah. Especially that position. Like in today's day and age, like,
And it's not forgiving. That position's not forgiving.
no, it's
You got the spotlight on you all the
all the time. Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? He's a unique guy. Like that's why he's going to be in the Hall of Fame as a player, and that's why he's a Hall of Fame person. Like everybody loves him. And that doesn't come around all the time. Like how many times have you talked like this about a guy, over your career?
Never.
Like, so he's special. He really is. And I just, and to me, it all stems from the person that he is. At the athleticism, all that stuff, but like the competitiveness, that all stems from who he is.
So Toasty Dogs, we talked about this on the podcast earlier. The Montreal Toasty Dogs, was that a thing?
Shane Shaw?
Do you have a record?
It's a lot. I don't know. I remember I was hurt. I was hurt there one year in the playoffs. So I missed a game. I had a broken foot, and I missed a game, and I had 6 in the first period.
Six in the first period.
Yeah.
They're small though.
They're small. That's easy.
You could do 6 and not bat an eye.
There's no like a dozen would be no problem. No problem. And I'm serious. No problem.
Do you eat them like July 4th Nathan's hot dog style? Like just you put ketchup and mustard on them? Like you
Just
indulge?
mustard.
Just mustard.
Yeah. And it's pretty much 2 bites.
2 bites Gonzo Alfonso.
Gonzo. And they have them in the press box, or not the press box, the press meal before the game. Mm-hmm. So I have a couple there. And then game's 2.5 hours long. I mean, it's a long game. I'm getting hungry. So
It's a never hungry league. You shouldn't.
yeah, right. I'll have at least 2 more after. And that's on a slow night. And then the day before, we went to Schwartz's for the smoked meat sandwiches. That was great. Oh my God.
Good food.
Good food, but the Shane Show, it was when Quebec was still in the league. I remember they had it like when we would walk into the arena, there'd be like a little stand open already, and we could grab a couple. Then, like walking down to the locker room, you're eating a couple hot dogs.
Pre-game meal hot dog.
Oh, yeah, that was so good. Like,
That's what that was before cell phones and people could take photos of you doing.
yeah,
it, I
exactly.
suppose.
Yeah, I know.
Good transition though, because you got the 4 Nations in Montreal and Boston.
Yeah.
Any good food spots in Montreal? Like we've gone out to the one dinner, the Greek spot in Montreal. That was
Milos.
Milos.
Yeah, that's the original.
Unbelievable.
That Milos is one of my favorite places. It's it's fantastic. That's a great city. Like there are tons of good restaurants. Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic city.
How about Boston? You got good spots there.
Your go-tos?
Wicked good.
Wicked
Wicked good spots.
Wawa.
No, that's down in Philly.
Oh, that's not there.
And Jersey and stuff. No, you go to the North End, for all the good Italian food, and obviously, like seafood, lobster rolls and stuff like that. There's a place I love. One of my favorite, because I spent 2 summers in Charlestown, living with a friend of mine, crashing at his place, Mike Joyce, and the Warren Tavern in Charlestown. That's where Paul Revere used to drink, and they have the best clam chowder I've ever had.
Chowder?
Chowder. It's actually unbelievable. Like it's wicked good.
So what are the 2 clam chowders? There's the tomato-based one.
That's Manhattan clam.
That's the
chowder.
Manhattan clam
Nobody
chowder.
eats that.
Nobody eats that?
Nobody.
It has to be the
Honestly,
real clam chowder.
if you go to a restaurant and order Manhattan clam chowder, I don't know, you got something wrong with it. That's, and especially if there's a choice of the 2.
You just
I've
can't do
never. I don't know if I've ever had the Manhattan clam chowder.
You just can't do it.
It's not clam chowder. It's soup with clams in it.
It's tomato soup with clams.
It is.
It's minestrone with clams in it.
It's so, like, who in their right mind orders Manhattan clam chowder? People from Manhattan don't even order it. They want the New England clam chowder.
All right.
Tons of pepper, the little oyster crackers.
We settled that.
Oh, it did. That is non-negotiable.
That's good.
Lobster rolls, and you know what too? In Boston, they have these places, roast beef sandwiches. Yeah, you go and get a roast beef sandwich with sauce and cheese. It's pretty awesome.
I love your palate because you like good food, but you also like just like a solid Wawa sandwich.
Oh no, you need like
a
street
roast beef.
food.
Yeah, street food.
Yeah, that is.
You need a combo.
Oh yeah. You go to New York, you get the dirty water dogs, stuff like that. Like, yeah.
You gotta live it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, so U.S. roster, for the most part, everybody's healthy and like.
Yeah. For the most part, we've got a couple question marks, but we'll see. You know what I mean? We have time, and players' decision. I don't put any pressure on guys, but we're very excited about the roster. This is the best. This is the best group of players U.S. has ever been able to put together, and you think about the guys we left off. Like
right.
This player pool is incredible right now. The amount of high end players that we have to choose from is. It was so much fun going through the process and just talking about putting this team together, and very, very exciting. We're really excited about this.
And I think you're spot on with the U.S. having like this big pool of players, more so than ever has before. And they're USA hockey players, but how much does USA hockey and the things that they've implemented within youth hockey and certain systems to credit for that? I think USA hockey has made it a point to have like a development process and standard kind of, and now it's producing these players. You find that accurate?
Yeah, I do. 100%. I think they came up with a great plan. They implemented it and they're sticking to it, and we're seeing the results of it right now. I think the ADM model where you do small area games and it's all skill and puck touches and things like that. That's where it's at. You know what? They'll figure out the game. I mean, look.
You can coach where to be or like systems and stuff like that, but
yeah,
these kids have.
I just think too the more kind of unorganized hockey kids play or just skill based stuff, they'll figure the game out. Like because even back when I know I'm older than you, but like when you and I were small or whatever like that. It's separated anyways between the kids who understood the game and the kids who didn't. So we might as well do the same thing, but have a higher skill base. And then as we go along, it just separates. And two, I knew it, like it was just so many people were like, oh, what about the games? You got to play full ice. Hey, the kid's 6 years old. He can't, it takes him 4,000 strides to get up and down the ice. Like And the games are for the parents anyways. They're for the psycho hockey parents out there who want to win, and they got these
The vicarious livers.
Our team's a wagon. We got this kid from some other town. We moved a kid in from Detroit and this and that. The games are for the parents. Like, let the kids develop their skill and stuff. And I just think it's been a great model. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's worked out. I think it's bearing fruit now. I think we can see it.
And you see too, I mean, where are all our players come? Like, you know what? It's not just
I know.
Minnesota,
Arizona,
Massachusetts,
Austin,
Michigan, Arizona, Texas, California, Florida. Like, they're coming from everywhere, and I think that's the beauty of it too.
I couldn't agree more. It stings a little bit because Minnesotans used to kind of have a stranglehold on that, but the rest of the country's catching up.
What about us in Massachusetts? We had a big time stranglehold on it.
Second, maybe.
But I'll tell you this too, though. I mean, this is my opinion, that in Minnesota, you know what, the grassroots of it, the way they do it here, is the best. You know, I know
the community-based model.
Yes, I know. Like you go out east and all these AAA this and AAA that and travel this. I mean, it's like the games don't count unless you get on a plane. You know, or you know, it's crazy. Like the fact that they have community-based stuff here, and there's a place for everybody to play is out of this world. And I know the Minnesota Wild Foundation support that a lot and work with a lot of different, organizations or communities. I'm telling you right now, it's worth fighting for. You don't give it up. It is, because once you go to that, then it starts eating away at everything else. And that, the fact that everybody has a place to play, and then you get into the high school tournament, which is incredible. All that stuff's worth fighting for. You know what? Like I said, these AAA things and all these, it's just business. And that's, I don't know. I like the way they do it here.
Agreed. So back to the Four Nations tournament, and I think that there's been comparisons, and we've talked to you about this a little bit, between the World Cup of Hockey and how physical that was and how much hate there was between the U.S. and Canada. Do you see this tournament having animosity like that to that level?
No, I don't see that. I see the competitiveness, and yeah, it's going to be physical. I think it could be, hey, look, there's a lot on the line. That was a different time. The game was played a different way, and we had something different to prove. But now we have to win in a different way. We have to. We just have to go out and prove it night after night. And we just had to make a stand back then, and it was just much different than, and all these guys, all these kids now, Matthews, Kachuk, Eichel, McAvoy, Werenski, all these guys, they grew up playing in these high stakes things. Mm-hmm. They all, a lot of them went to the NTDP. They grew up playing against Canada, Finland, Sweden, Russia on the big stages, on the way up. So this is nothing new to them. They're not intimidated by anybody. They're not getting pushed around. They never have been. So that part of it's taken care of. Now let's just get down to the hockey. Back then we had to prove something, that we weren't going to be pushed around and stand up for ourselves. And that's been done. Now it's just, let's go play hockey.
What's the biggest obstacle to getting them to play good hockey fast? So what's the most challenging thing for a coach? How to get everybody on the same page in such a quick tournament?
I think that's probably it. Just trying to create that chemistry, trying to create the buy-in and acceptance of role is huge. And then it comes down
because a lot of these guys are going to accept roles that they don't play on a nightly basis.
All of them. All of them.
There might be 3 guys on your top group and the top power play group that play their normal role.
Right.
Other than that, everybody's going to assume a different role.
They'll probably be, because guys that are going to be on second power play are on first power play. They're all elite players on every team.
Right.
So I think acceptance of role, buy-in, and then you know what, execution. We just have to go out and execute. And I you know what, I love it. Look, we've got a great team on paper. We really do. And you know what? But so does Canada, so does Finland, and so does Sweden. And we have to go out and play the games. We have to execute in the games and just take it step by step.
Does experience matter in these tournaments? Like I know some of the guys have played in the World Junior tournaments or Olympic tournaments. Does like a Stanley Cup, so like on paper you look at it, Canada has a lot more Stanley Cups won than the guys on the U.S. roster. Does that matter?
I think maybe at certain moments it matters, but I think, you know, they're also just, like I said, there's timing, there's health, there's you know, there's goaltending. In a short tournament, you know, if we were playing like a longer, I would say that has more to do with it. But it's such a short tournament that anything can happen.
I think in these tournaments too, you need clutch players that are like primed for big moments. Are you confident in your group that you have the guys that can rise to those moments? Be clutch?
Oh yeah. And you know what? Sometimes it's not the guy you think. In in '96, you know, we had, you know, Madonna and Brett Hull and guys like this. Tony Monte scored the big goal.
Right.
Oh, Tony was a big player too, but not like those guys. Like,
Yeah.
Tony scored the big goal. You know, so these guys all have the capability of being that guy on any given night.
I love that aspect of it. I love the clutchness. I love clutch performances. Love watching them. Excited to see who it's going to be. Austin Matthews named captain. Why was he the guy?
Well, I think, you know what, Austin is one of the premier guys in the league. You know what, he's the captain of an enormous market, the biggest one in the league, really, in Toronto. And you know, I think the pressures that he goes through every single day, and I love the way that he handles it. He's a very even-keeled guy. And I think the supporting cast of Tkachuk and McAvoy, they all fit kind of nicely together. And then, you know, they're, again, kind of like they're all good players, they're all all-stars. They're all leaders on their team. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I was speaking with one of the other guys that won't be wearing a letter, and he's like, yeah, we're all good. Like, those are great choices. We're all going to lead in our own way. That's good. That's good. Like, those are great names. He goes, we'll all do our part. And that's kind of it. Like I said, it's a short tournament. Like, everybody's going to have their moment.
So, you know how you mentioned earlier that you put yourself in maybe another GM's shoes at different times?
Yeah.
For this tournament, put yourself in another GM's shoes. Like, is it nerve-wracking to have like your stud players go play in a tournament just before the deadline or right before your stretch run if you're in one of those situations where you're fighting for a playoff spot?
No, not. You know, well, I have two of my. I have five.
Yeah. And you have you have somewhat of a vested interest. That's why I say, like, if you look at it from somebody else's perspective, because
no, I mean, look at it. Our best player here in Minnesota's out.
Right, and is that so? That's where I was going with that. Is that a good thing?
No, and he didn't go and play in. No, but he's hurt.
Yeah, he's hurt, so that's not good.
So, but it didn't take the Four Nations tournament to do that to him. These guys, anything can happen at any time.
Yeah,
it's not. I'm not worried about it. No.
Yeah.
To answer your question. No.
Not worried about it.
No.
I have this theory that teams with high-end players that aren't in the Four Nations tournament
might be winners at this time too, because they get added rest. So Kirill gets to rest right now when he probably needs it most. It's different because he was injured, and that's where I thought about that. Like you look at a team like Tampa, like Kucherov gets to all of a sudden recharge his battery during the dog days down the stretch, and there's going to be cases on probably every team, where it's important for the guys that maybe aren't playing too. But
I guess it's how do they spend their break?
Yeah,
You know?
and then, so that's the last question of the day. What's the message to the rest of the group? Like, how is their break?
How is their break? Are they going? Are they going on are they going to hit the gym during the break? Or are they going to, go sit on the beach and drink Coronas?
Cool. Well, I tell you what, it's always fun hanging with you, chatting.
Yeah, it's always good coming on here.
Yeah, I'll make sure I never order Manhattan clam chowder. And I got to try it now. No? Silence. Good luck.
And to me, there are different types of lobster rolls too.
Wait, let's get into this.
Yeah.
How?
They're
So you know the toasty dogs that we talked about?
Yeah.
You know how like the edges are cut off? Does a lobster roll have to have the bread with the edges cut off?
That's a New England style bun.
That's what it has
It's
to
a
be.
New England style hot dog bun.
I can't eat a lobster roll and call it good without it having that type of bun.
Because that's not how they're made. You have to have a New England style bun. If you put it on like a brioche or what, no, it's got to be like white bread, toasted bun, like that's non-negotiable. But there's like a Connecticut style where the lobster is hot and you put butter on it. Very good, but to me, it's the lobster with the mayo and a little bit of celery, and that's a lobster roll.
That's the lobster roll. That's the way to do
We'll
it.
have to do a food segment.
Next time we go out east, how to eat the chowder and the
Yeah.
rolls. Cool. Well, good luck in the tournament. Appreciate
Thank
it. We'll be
you. Thanks,
watching
Cards.
closely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
Thanks,
right.
buddy.
Take care.